Podcast. 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 Yeah, welcome to the Racer X Exhaust Podcast. I'm Jason Weigandt, your host. We keep rolling these things out. Riders have more time on their hands to do media than ever, and we are taking full advantage. And now they have something to promote. We've got Ryan Villopoto on this week to talk about Moto Fite Klub, which is the upcoming pay-per-view race that you can watch May 12th at 5 p.m. on Fight.tv. Just go to our website, racerxonline.com, and you'll see a series of breaking news links about this race. It is Villopoto, Pastrana, Stanton, Bradshaw, Wyndham, Sipes, Tedesco, Brock Glover, Jake Weimer. I think I got them all in here. Click through there and subscribe. It's $19.99 to watch it. It's in any other racing going on. Probably worth it. I'm cheap. For most people, it would be completely and totally worth it. But I choose my $19.99 purchases very carefully. You might have heard on our last show where we had Travis Pastrana on the podcast. He said, hey, I just spent $19.99 to rent Trolls World Tour, a movie for my kids to watch. Whatever, it's $19.99. Ah, Travis, ha, 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 make me laugh. My daughter also wanted to watch Trolls World Tour, and I saw it was $19.99, and I convinced her instead to watch Back to the Future 2 and 3 because they're 30 years old, and they only cost $3 each. So I spent $6 to get two movies instead of $20 to get one. Trolls World Tour will be out someday, and I could buy it, and it'll probably be cheaper, and I can keep it forever instead of a rental. But look, if you're not psychotic about saving money like me, I think this is a good value, Moto Fite Klub. But I will say we are an affiliate sponsor, so if you purchase the pay-per-view through Racer X, through our website, we get a small percentage of the money instead of Fight getting all the money. So just keep that in mind, okay? I guess I'm biased. Also, shout out to Yoshimura. You know them. They're the title sponsor of our Exhaust podcast. We have now gone over the 100 mark. I believe this will be show 103. I think I had this right. The Roy Jansen, Tim Cotter pod was 100. 101 would have been Webb. 102 is Pastrana. 103 is Villopoto. We are coming in hot. Yoshimura's been there since day one of this pod. Yoshimura-rd.com. They've got exhaust systems for your machine. And also, they've got pedals for your machine, your bicycle, at YoshimuraCycling.com. And Racer X, we've been pumping the limited edition offer, 99 cents for 3 issues digital, $2.99 for 3 issues print and digital. You can read the magazine. Yep, looks just like the magazine, but it looks awesome online, right through our website. But you do need to subscribe to get access to that. Okay, now on to Ryan Villopoto. Yes, we talked to him about this Moto Fite Klub. It's coming up. But I'm not going to get a half hour with RV and not dive into the topics I've always wanted to ask him about, which is the pressure of being a champion. I have several rants in this sport I like to go on. One of my favorite is when I hear people say, oh, dude, sport's grinding people up. Guys are retiring early. No, guys are not retiring early. Specifically, only 3 guys have retired early. Ricky Carmichael, Ryan Dungey, and Ryan Villopoto retired in their late 20s. That's it. 3 guys retired early. And what do those 3 guys have in common? They were winning all the championships they were competing in, for the most part, at the time they retired. They did not retire because the training was too much. They did not retire because the risk was too much. Those are factors. There's no doubt. There is no doubt those are factors. But the reason they retired and the rest of their peers did not retire that young is because the pressure of having to win those titles, keep those win streaks alive, the feeling that if you lose, it will be a complete disaster, and if you win, it would be just another title, and that's not life-changing. That was the difference. And I now have Villopoto completely and totally admitting that in this podcast. Hypothesis proved. Let's talk to Ryan Villopoto. Here we go. Okay, look, dude, you're working hard. You're a promoter in some case here, right? This is a race, and you're involved.
I'm the racer. All right. So Rob and Denny are heading up this this inaugural Moto Fite Klub, MFK?
Look, I don't want to give you too much credit here. I hate to do that, but I've talked to those guys, and they've given you some credit. Apparently, you're fairly smart at helping give advice on putting on events. I hate to do this, but they've been complimenting you.
So here's the deal. Like, obviously, as we know, the huge success. I mean, huge success that we had at MXON for the pit bike race, right? I mean, it was the biggest success of the weekend. Team USA won that one. So, that was Rob, and I'm really good buddies with Rob, and any great ideas that I'm always talking to Rob. So he's always like, hey, what do you think of this idea? What do you think of that idea? And I'm like, all right, yeah, pretty good. And some of them don't ever happen, and some of them, he hit a home run on. So MXON, for example. So he had this idea, calls me, and he's like, hey, what do you think? And I'm like, well, sounds great, but like always, our sport, our riders, as racers, we tend to have an issue sticking together, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So to go out and just say, hey, we need 10 guys to jump into this thing, tracking down the 10 guys was, we called upon some other racers, and they're like, they didn't maybe to believe in the process or think it wasn't going to work because we had a short amount of time. So we came about with some 10, and now it's happening. So.
Dude, you got to make some compromises, though. So are you driving to the event? Are you wrenching on your own bike? All this stuff? I know we can't talk about where the event's taking place, but I know it's not your backyard. So are you having to drive?
Yes, I will be road tripping here very shortly. Just an undisclosed location in the country somewhere.
But I think that shows some dedication from you guys. I was talking to Damon Bradshaw this morning. Same thing. He's road tripping. You guys are throwing bikes and trucks. You're wrenching on your own bikes. You're not flying in and jet setting. You're working hard at this.
No, it's not like it's 6 hours. It's not a 6 hour drive.
Right.
It's a jaunt. Let me tell you,
okay.
It's going to be a jaunt. It's going to be at least a couple 12 to 15 hour days, at least driving. Yes.
Okay, so there are a couple elements to this, and again, this race is next Tuesday night in an undisclosed location. Is this just like old school, you're rubbing your hands together because this is fun and awesome? Or is it, hey, there's a charitable element, maybe America needs something to pump themselves up?
Well, so I think number one, right, is we have to, is Supercross, Motocross, actually all action, pretty much every sporting event that people have grown to love and watch, if it's baseball, football, motocross, supercross, whatever, has been put to a halt with everything that's going on in the world. So, the way we have things set up now is it's like you said, no goggle guys, no mechanics. It's rider, and it's 10 riders basically, and a few other people on the ground. So as when it comes to big groups of people, that is, it's not, we're social distancing, we're practicing safe practices. So, but yeah, ultimately, I think the way it's going to work out is we come up with an idea, head-to-head bracket racing, best out of 3, and also yes, we have the opportunity for docs. I called my buddy up, Kerry Hart, and it's like, hey, I seen you do something with goggles for docs. I don't know exactly I get what it is and what it's for, but what is it exactly? So explain to me. And I guess it was a Fox thing. Fox started goggles for docs, and then Kerry's like, hey dude, I got all these goggles in my garage, so he jumped on board with that. Obviously he's a Fox rider also, so I was like, hey, we'll just give the stuff to Road to Recovery for them to auction off, and then they can turn around and give you a check and then blow it up on with your following, and then Fox can go out and buy goggles, right? Their goggles, I'm assuming, and then give those goggles for docs, and then it's Road to Recovery will get the gear, let's say the pant jersey, and then cystic fibrosis is one of Brock's charities that we're going to get involved with also. So pretty cool element to everything, and also bring racing back for the fans. I mean, I think everybody's tired of watching Netflix and old YouTube videos.
But there is also an element of this where you just want to do it for fun, right? I can't imagine you guys are doing it for
yeah, fun. I mean, I think our group that we have is pretty rad, to be honest. And I've heard some people talk, well, they're just going to go out there and ride around. Well, the one thing that these people need to be, understand with is we're racers at heart, no matter what. Straight rhythm tends to start off fun, right? But then all of a sudden somebody jumps a quad and then it's like, well, fuck, I got to go jump that too. And then all of a sudden it gets serious really quick. So same thing. I'm assuming this is going to get serious. We want, even if it's for bragging rights, we're racers at heart. And when we get behind a gate, we want to put on, do you hear me? Can we,
yeah, you're good. You're good.
Okay.
Yeah, it gets wonky at times. Yeah, so It is not a coincidence then that we have a couple of matchups. Like, we know the history of you and Alessi. We know the history of Alessi and Tedesco. That's not a coincidence that these happen to be the dudes in this event?
Well, ultimately, I think, we could go in and try to put on like a typical race. Our sport doesn't need another race. It doesn't need another typical race. It needs something like straight rhythm. It needs something like this that Rob's putting on, and getting guys like, so everybody knows the story of 2005 Glen Helen last race, Mike and Ivan, right?
Yeah.
Ivan, Mike standing on Ivan's bike, and a whole controversy of that. Everybody knows the story of myself and Mike Alessi as through amateurs. So tying these in is the controversy side of bringing back, and let's be honest, like when me and Mike get out there, believe me, Mike doesn't want to lose to me and I don't want to lose to Mike. That's just the way it is. Now, am I going to go out there? Is there a championship on the line? No, there's not a championship on the line. I understand that. Everybody else understands that. But we're on I've seen photos of where we're going to be racing. It's a very basic track. So call it splitting hairs with lap times or tenths, if you call it, it's going to be damn close racing. I can guarantee you that.
And it sounds like now getting on in years, it's been 15 or so years since you and Mike were like amateur rivals. It seems like you guys are actually pretty cool with each other these days.
I mean, it is. Yeah. Why not? I don't hate the guy, and maybe we'll become, closer friends. Not that we're like great friends now, but maybe we'll become closer friends after this, So, I don't, look, I got pretty excited about this a couple of days ago because I was like, holy shit, this thing's going to happen. And I think people are going to, dig the concept of it. And don't forget that it is bracket racing, it is head-to-head racing, but Rob's got a couple wild cards up his sleeve. So say that Mike gets knocked out early, or I get knocked out early, or Ivan gets knocked out early, the rivalries that people want to see, we're going to be able to pull a wild card, and people are going to be able to see us race each other. So you're not going to go unforeseen Mike Alessi and Ryan Villopoto if one of us get knocked out. We're going to get out there on the track together regardless because of the wild card.
And you guys have figured out the social media trash talk game. You got some practice now. Straight Rhythm has been pretty gnarly the last few years. You guys have all refined the trash talk game pretty well now on social media. It's been cool.
I think it's going well. Yeah, it's going well. I think we knew we were up against backed into a corner, I guess, with Supercross potentially coming on I think, what was it, the 15th or something, a couple days after us, but then it got pushed back.
Yeah.
So we we're doing our best to get it out on social media and doing things like this, the Racer X Live on Instagram, educating people on what this thing is. Because a lot of people are like, well, what is this thing? I mean, Mathis was like, oh, you're racing pit bikes. I'm like, dude, no, we're not. We're not racing pit bike. Oh, okay. Well, now I'm into it. I'm like, okay, well, okay, great. That's awesome. So, that being said, we're doing our best, and that's why, Weege and Racer X and Pulpamex and Don at Swap Moto, we're trying to spread the word as fast as possible. And I think we're achieving what we need to achieve. And the pay-per-view, from the knowledge that they're giving us is like, why would somebody pay for a pay-per-view subscription right now, like when it's still a week away? You're going to pay for a black screen. Not that you're not going to watch it, but like, I've only ever bought a couple fights, right? But I buy them 20 minutes before, crack a beer, buy my fight, and then watch it. So we're just going to keep plugging away and pushing hard to get the knowledge out there that people want, to give them all the information they need to have them tune in.
Speaking of cracking beers, there will be a beer cracking bench racing And that's actually for free, just to get everybody warmed up on Monday, right?
Yeah, get everybody warmed up. You know, you just can't fire these 2 strokes up and hold them wide open right away.
Okay.
And they're not all 2 strokes, but there'll be a couple out there. But yeah, and it's cold seas those babies. So came up with the idea of doing a fireside chat. And that being said, obviously you've been around racing a long time, and probably a lot of the fans don't, haven't heard a lot of the, say, inside stories or the really funny shit that happens inside of our industry, or the crazy stuff that happens inside of our industry. So I think we'll see some of that coming out, which will be pretty cool. And like I said, it's a free thing to just to tune into and get people amped up on coming back for Tuesday.
You're the perfect guy for that, because now that you're retired, we see you taking Coors Lights at the races, hanging out with fans, bench racing with whoever, not holding any grudges. I always told people, I'm like, even in your racing days when you're winning all the time, like if you saw the dude at like 3 p.m. in the team truck, you were like that. We had fun. We talked trash. Everybody told stories. Now everybody's getting to see that. So I think now is like the best time ever. I think fans have started to realize, oh man, there's this whole other layer that I didn't even know. And you've kind of revealed that a little bit. We know Pastrana will say whatever about whoever. So yeah, for me, that's become just as good.
Yeah, I think that I've had a few people tell me that I think that I'm more valuable now than I was when I was racing. And it is what it is. I get the Cooper Webb and the Eli Tomacs and the guys that maybe don't have like the Ryan Dungeys of the world, like the Ryan Villopotos of the world. When you're in that position, there's just one goal, and that one goal is to win, right? It makes it pretty. I'll be honest, it's going to make it pretty cut and dry and boring. I guess I tried to do my best at not being like that, and I think I did better than a few other guys, but still pretty cut and dry and boring. But now being in my position, now my position is there's nothing on the line, and I think that my valuable side of me now is doing the 125 races, is doing straight rhythm, and I don't have to go out there and win. I'd love to go out there and win, but it's really hard to see the kind of the beauty of this right now of MFK is Kevin hasn't rode in a while. We know Kevin's talent. It's unbelievable. Mike rides quite a bit. Ivan's probably the one that rides the most out of everybody.
Yeah.
So we're kind of all on very even playing fields, which is nice. When you show up at straight rhythm, you get like Kenny and you get Cooper and you get these guys that ride all the time. And I'll be like, okay, I rode for 3 days. Let's see how this goes, you know? So that's kind of, we're all on the even playing field when it comes into this. And don't get me wrong. Like I could probably still go out there and put a top 12 lap time on the board in an outdoor, for one lap, that is, not for 30. So our speed's still there, and we only have to do it on a 1:30 lap time track, 2 laps at a time. So I think you guys are going to be surprised on the racing and the speed.
Yeah, I remember when you actually raced Monster Cup a few years ago, and you're like, dude, I was really tired. Okay, like we have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, 100%. Like we don't. It's like a knife. If you stop sharpening it, it goes dull right away. If you start, so that's what happens with all of us. Like I'm going to be honest, I haven't rode with everything going on in the world. I haven't rode in probably 2.5 months. Yeah. I'm coming out swinging, boys. I'm coming out swinging.
No excuses. Still coming and bringing it.
I'm still going to try to bring it.
Okay. All right, let me ask you a couple of questions about this racing time. If you were racing, or if this break in racing happened when you were racing, would this drive you nuts? Would you be the kind of guy that's like, everything for me has to be scheduled, I'm OCD about it, I don't know how to plan, I don't know how to train, it's driving me nuts? Or would you be able to roll with it? Because I've heard 50-50 from today's racers on how they're able to cope. So where would you have been? Would you have been going crazy right now?
Oh, you're saying with the current situation with Supercross and Motocross?
With the break, and you're the defending champ or the points leader or whatever. Yeah.
Well, see, I raced Dunge, and Dunge, I think, was my rivalry through the person that I think we could all count on being there every single weekend. You had James that was unbelievably fast, couldn't be beat some weekends, but then, had his hiccups or had his crashes or James didn't show up that weekend type thing. Same with Chad. So Dunge and myself, I think, as you're probably could say more about this, but you guys knew who was showing up every single weekend. So I think for me, this would probably I want to say this might work into my advantage because I feel like I roll with the punches better than Dunge would.
I see.
And being that he was my main competitor, I feel like that would disrupt his training program or his mental side, his mental, just getting out of the loop. It's just screwing with the program.
Yeah, so you could cope fairly well. I mean, you had to do your normal stuff, but if something got derailed, if you had like a Tuesday where something got messed up or a Thursday or a bad weekend or whatever, it didn't completely spin you out too bad?
No, like shit, if my bike had an issue and I had to go home early, I was actually kind of like excited that, okay, well, I'll be a little more rested tomorrow,
Yeah.
That didn't play a factor into my head, no.
I always ask this of all the racers. I mean, look, it is your job every day to try to get better, to try to get faster, to try to get fitter. How hard would it be to just switch that off? Because for a while, I guess the riders, maybe we'll be back in May, but for a while they were probably like, well, I guess this is my off season now. How hard would it be to just turn it off?
I yes and no. I mean, sure, those guys probably took a little bit of a breather, but I just know how my program was and how Eldon runs his program. They're not going to stray too far from doing what they're doing and I don't think many of the riders, because this is such an unknown. And yes, as information got out there and as states were starting to shut down and this thing was kind of spreading like wildfire in a sense that okay, you kind of gathered how that we're going to be off for a little bit. So you could say we would back it up just a little bit, give ourselves a breather, but you're not just going to just hit pause on your, say, training, riding, and all those types of things. You're still riding every day, like training and probably go for a 2-week type of like recovery, thing. But remember, you're still riding, you're still at the gym, but it's at a little less intensity.
Okay. Speaking of that, we interviewed Cooper Webb last week, and the fans asked her, like, hey, does Eldon ever tell old stories of RC or James or RV or anything like that? And he's like, he does every once in a while. He said he told a story once about you and Eldon wrestling on the side of a jump, but he didn't want to reveal. I was like, I'll ask RV. What happened?
So I actually think there was a photo that came across on something. I think Casey, my old practice shop mechanic at the time, has photo, and same with Ryan Rowell was Jake's mechanic at the time. So I think a photo came across, and so it was outdoors. It was 103, like humid and sticky, like typical Florida, hot as hell. Yeah. And I popped off doing, like being a smart ass, and I tried to push him off because how like Eldon, the mechanics will stand on the side of the track. Well, literally the side of the jump is right behind them, right? So, and this wasn't a small jump. This was 15 feet off the ground, and so I tried to push him off of the side of the jump, and didn't work. We ended up both going down the hill, and then wrestled around in the sand, and it's 105, and then I still had to go out and do my moto, like already heart rate at 150, sweating even hotter, and now all right, now go ride. That happened a few times. We've wrestled in the shop, and we've wrestled out on the track, and I actually texted Eldon the other day. I think maybe a photo of that or something, and I was being a smart ass to him again. I said, you don't have near as much fun anymore as we used to. And he goes, you're right, mate. You're right. Because, remember, it was only like 3 of us. It was AC was on an 80 and just got on a big bike, like amateur still. And then it was me and Jake. Like, that was our crew. So I'm sure things have changed. I know they've changed at Eldon's program. So it's a lot different when you have just 3 guys like that, and then versus as many as he has now. So it's a different business platform that he's working off of now, and obviously it's still working for him, but yeah, completely different.
But what were you wrestling him about? What was the problem that led to this?
Well, I tried to push him off the jump, like being a smartass, like
okay.
Or he might have said, "Oh, were you going to go out and do 30 and then another 30 or something. And I probably was like being a smart. I was like, fuck you. Like, and I tried to push him off the jump, and he dragged me down with him, and the bike comes down also. And sand is now in my jersey, and like, I am already hot. Like, it just wasn't a good situation.
Okay, I've always wondered this with you. How much of all of this was mind over matter? I don't get the sense that you loved doing these motos in 105 degrees, and maybe no one does, but as you said, Dunge was the guy you had to battle. Dunge seems like the kind of guy that would train for a triathlon for fun as a hobby if he had a regular job. How much of you was just like, it's my job, I got to do it. If I do 10 years or 11 or whatever, I'm going to make the most of it. I'll suck it up, even if I hate it. That's what it seemed like. Was that what was really going on, or did you actually like it?
I mean, I think to be as good as I was, or as good as these athletes are at different sports,
yeah,
there's a different. I think everybody has a different type of love for the situation. Like Dunge loves it. He truly loves it. Like I think, anyways, this is my opinion. I think that I wouldn't say that I loved the suffering, but there was a part of me that had to have liked to see if I could, how far could I push it, or Eldon would say, well, I bet you can't do that. Or like, it was different for me. Like, I wouldn't say, I didn't love it. Like, but also finding like people's weaknesses too. Like if you can find, like I knew the Dunge was really good in the heat per se, but I knew that if I could just start to crack him a little bit, I knew that he would crack. And I felt like I dealt with heat better than Elsinore, for instance, that year that it was ungodly hot at Elsinore.
Yeah.
I felt like the heat, or maybe it wasn't the heat. I don't know. Like, I just thought like the heat got to a lot of people that day, and it was hard for me. It wasn't easy, but I didn't let it get to me like I think other people did. I don't know how to answer that question, and maybe that's confusing, but it's, and options, right? Like I didn't have, like my dad built houses when we were growing up, that's how he funded our racing. And it's not like I swung a hammer. I was always riding. Right. So it's like, what are you going to go and what are you going to kind of go and do? So at that point, like you do wise up out of you get smarter after 16 and 17 and 20, 21, 25. And I think our industry is a lot more mature. I think you got to mature a lot quicker than the average kid at 16.
Yeah.
Still dummies, but smarter than most of the average 16-year-olds. And I think when I turned around, I was like, okay, well at 18 is like, like this is my business now. So, I'm not going to start over going somewhere else. So that's when you almost like, okay, well, you kind of put your head down. It's like, okay, I'm going to put it all into this, or whatever age that was, 16, 17, 18.
Yeah.
And you stack you push all the chips in, and you go for it, because there's not a lot of option either.
Yeah. So it is. It's like you said, like if I just do all out for 10 years, I'm going to make the most of this. And if I don't like it all the time, it's just 10 years or it's just 12 years. I'm
sure people don't like their desk jobs either. Like I get it, we got paid better than the average desk job. I can guarantee you that. People don't like their desk job. I understand that. Like we don't have to love our day jobs either. Every single day.
I also think so. What I think your answer is kind of saying is, as long as there is a competitive element, like maybe what you're doing on Wednesday or Thursday wasn't fun, but if you could be like, oh yeah, but on Saturday this is going to do this, or long term this is going to do that, it kind of feeds that competitive side.
And let's be honest, the winning is always fun. Like, even though people are like, oh, he looks fucking mad up there. Well, yeah, I just got done. I'm hot. I'm sweaty. I'm tired. Like, just because I just won a national or I won a Supercross, that doesn't mean I won the championship. Then also too, I have some photos that I might not look the funnest or the happiest when I won the championship. I'm just glad the fucking thing's over, because the stress is so high, to finally close the deal. It's it's a lot of a kind of mixed emotions type of thing, but the outside looking in, you're like, oh, what's the matter with this guy? Well, dude, we just, it's like we just made it through, we just won the war.
Well, people have been watching this Michael Jordan Last Dance documentary, and they said something in the one they had on Sunday that sums up guys at your level so well. When you win the first one or two, that's joy. eventually when you have a streak going, it becomes more like, thank God I didn't lose it this year. And it's almost more relief than joy.
And I said that in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you win the first one, right? And it's like, okay, wow, I won my first championship. Fucking right on, high five, everybody's digging it. But it's from that point on, then you have, okay, let me see if I can do it again. Okay, so then you win it twice. But then after twice, even after the first one, but especially after after twice, people are like, okay, well, the target on your back is like, you're the guy and everybody wants to beat you.
Yeah.
And to keep the streak going is probably the hardest thing. And that's why I think you've only seen, I don't know, what is it? Me and MC go like 4 in a row.
Yeah.
Because to go 4 in a row, like I believe Ricky could have done it, potentially, like I'm not saying he couldn't have, but with injuries and whatever else, there's a lot less of, consecutive championships versus, and then there's a lot less of 4 in a rows or 3 in a rows type thing.
Yeah.
Than there are just somebody winning 1 or 2 in a row.
Yeah. What I'm always saying is, like, it's not just the training and all this. There's an extra level of pressure that comes with the streak that you have to account for. And there's only a few dudes
and
who
there's
never had to
nothing
deal
you
with
can
that.
do, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's zero you can do about it.
Yep. Did you ever consider, now, hey, we all know you went to MXGP. That didn't quite work out. But did you ever consider also, like, what if I did like half a season and didn't try to go for a title, but just tried to win races? The only guy that ever did that was that's what Ricky did in his last year. Did that ever cross your mind? Like, points championship, I'm not even going to try, but I can still race.
No,
was that ever an option?
That was, I'm going to be honest, that was kind of a weird deal, how that thing all transpired. And I'm not going to, that's for me to know and kind of nobody else at this point. Maybe later in life, I can divulge a little bit of that, but no, it was definitely a weird time, and yes, I had another year in my contract, so some arrangements, we made some arrangements and made things happen, but ultimately, my heart was and brain was already had left the building from kind of the racing world, right? So I was ready to move on, I guess, per se.
Right.
I needed that break. I needed to stop. That doesn't mean that, like, because obviously everybody heard about like Dunn's rumbles of him maybe coming back. I'm not saying that say if in a perfect world that we could have just taken a 2-year hiatus and come back and step right back into our winning ways. Yeah. Because we probably would have done that, but that's just not how our sport works. And there's a lot of sports like that. You leave to football for 2 years, you're not going to be as sharp as you ever were, I don't think. It's just the way it is. We're athletes at the highest level. So when you leave, there's really no returning to that space.
Yeah. Everybody else is practicing, training, getting better for 2 whole years, and you're not. It's going to be hard to potentially catch right back.
It's not that. I don't think it's not. Can you do that? It's your mental capacity. It's your mental state has changed.
I see.
Like I said, I could I was riding before getting ready for Australia. Me and my dad were out at Milestone, and Tony Alessi's out there with Mookie and Vince, and there's a lot of guys that ride Milestone, and he comes up to me, he goes, "What are you doing?" He goes, "You got something up your sleeve," and I'm like, because I was fast still, but that's fast in practice, So he can go out there and automatically see, oh fuck, this guy's on it. Like, where'd this guy come? Like, he hasn't been riding, so we still got it. But to go into that, get to that race mentality, get to your brain back to, I guess, that killing, the killing state. Like, I don't know if that ever comes back. I mean, I could sit here and tell you, like,
I see.
Well, I'd want to go out there and win, but actually the mental side of it, I think, is what changes. Your head changes, your headspace changes. The speed or the talent that you had doesn't necessarily change.
Right. So you can be burned out. You can eventually get that out of your system. You're kind of hungry. You're kind of into it again, but you never quite get all the way 100%.
I don't think you can fully come back. I don't think you can come back.
Gotcha.
No, not at our. And Kevin took a hiatus, and not to take anything away from Kevin, but Kevin didn't do like seasons on end of seasons and seasons and seasons of inside of like that, racing for a championship with close points. And every weekend comes down to where'd Dunn finish? Where's James finish? Like every single weekend. Well, what are the points now? Like that's that. Like how did like we have to win. We have to win. We have to win. No disrespect. I'm buddies with Kevin, and he's involved.
Mm-hmm.
He's racing on Tuesday with us. So, I think that's different too. You have the guys that never raced. I mean, Kevin raced for championship, but not say as much as me, a Dunn, Ricky. Guys that are in that position, I think it's different than guys that are anywhere from like a 5th to a 10th place guy. It's a different thing. And I can't tell you what that thing is. I just know it's different. You know what? Here's the proof. I totally believe it. Because the guys that are like, oh, everybody retires early. I'm like, the guys that retired early were the guys that won these titles in a row. And everyone else who didn't win like 3 in a row, like these guys are still racing. Like that's the line in the sand. That pressure or not having that pressure, not the training or even the risk maybe, as long as you don't get super beat up. But it's just different. It's just a different thing. It's just a different thing.
Yeah, that's why Justin Brayton's 35 and is still going because he hasn't had to live with that. Every week I have to be the best guy. If he gets an 8th once in a while, his world doesn't collapse. But yours would have.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. 2 8th back-to-back weekends that you shit the bed on. Yeah, that is bad. It's a bad situation.
I got a few questions from fans here, and then we'll let you go and continue packing up for this race. And by the way, everybody, again, links on Racer X. It's called Moto Fite Klub. They'll be racing Tuesday night. Buy the pay-per-view. It's cool. It's the only racing that's out there right now.
Fight TV, FITE.
That's right.
It's on Android platform, Apple platform. I believe if you have a smart TV also. Guys, tune in. I believe it's 5 o'clock Eastern time, 2 o'clock Western time, right? So that because it's a worldwide, so we got to get Europe involved. So I know those guys are on major lockdown. In Europe, they're inherently stricter than we are in the U.S. So I can imagine how those guys are dying to watch some things. So hopefully they tune in.
It's a little gift for everybody. Okay, 3 quick questions from fans. I don't know if you got answers to these, but we'll try. If you go back in time, is there anything you would change in your racing career? Do you have anything, or are you one of those no regrets guys?
Oh, I think there would be things that I would change for sure. Can I answer what those things are? No. But the only thing that I can back up to say that things happened the way they happened. Sure, there's things that I would definitely go back and change. Maybe a few things with my dad and things like that. But ultimately, things happened for a reason, and it all panned out and worked out. And I won the races that I won, and I won the championships that I won. So you go back and start messing with, what if you'd have done this different? Well, maybe I wouldn't have won then, or maybe this would have changed, right? So that's just the way life is.
Good point. Any championships stick out as the most memorable out of all the ones you have?
I mean, I think that like you mentioned what was it, Michael Jordan? I would say like the one that you asked me that now. Well, I can remember my first championship, my first 450 championship crossing line in Vegas. It was a close race between Stu and James and myself. It wasn't locked up. I can remember Chad stopping up on next to the jump of that triple after the finish. I think it was. I actually think I have a photo of that, me and him next to each other. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. No, I can't remember a lot of those ones. So first one, I guess.
That's funny. That's funny to hear. Right. That's just the way we're saying. It doesn't have the same joy. And finally, favorite pass of all time. And feel free to throw a little Mike Alessi shade in here, just to promote Moto Fite Klub. Favorite pass.
That 06 Bench Creek is always a good one with Mike.
Yes.
We had a big rivalry. Stay tuned for Fight TV. I'm going to try to do it. I'm going to try to do it again. And who knows, he might do it to me. But I would think favorite pass has to be Steel City. With Dunge. That was I wouldn't say the gnarliest race I've ever done, but we went 30 plus 2. So that's 15 laps roughly, depending on lap time, where I was eating his roost the entire time. Don't ask me how I didn't run out of tear offs, but I didn't. for 30 plus 2, and then the last turn, literally 100 feet from the finish line, passing him. You know, is I think pretty crazy. There's highlights on it, obviously, but if you got to go back and watch, actually spend 30 minutes watching the actual footage at the race itself, and then that happens, you're like, wow. I think that was probably the most memorable one.
That's cool. Yeah, that's 2011 if people want to look it up. But you're right. If you watch it in 2 minutes, it doesn't explain the pressure and the heat of 30 minutes on each other. Yeah.
And points were fairly close. That, you know, I think we were 14 points separated at that point. I think actually we were 14 exactly, because I think when I went into Paula, I had a 17-point lead after that. And
yeah, it was definitely close enough. I remember it was like, well, if Dunge wins out, if he goes 1-1-1-1, it's going to be like right down. So that was like so critical to hang that moto.
And it was, up. and on for myself, it was like I knew that was the nail in the coffin for him.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Maybe if Moto Fite Klub ever happens again, you might have to give Dunge a call.
Well, I put it this way: anybody that tunes in to watch this FaceTime IGTV Live, whatever the hell it is, if we can get enough people tuned into it, it will happen again. I want it to happen again.
All right.
The guys that are the 10 that are involved with Fight TV and MFK, we want this to happen again. This isn't, the goal is for this to be a one-off. So if we can get enough of you guys to tune in and, get this thing off the ground, I think you're going to see some pretty cool stuff. Rob's got a lot of awesome ideas.
Ooh, all right. Even better. All right. Well, look, thanks for the time. That's it. You got to start packing up, I would think, right? You got your hands full here.
Undisclosed location, Weege. You should probably go do something with that hair.
Then believe it or not, this is doing something. That's as good as it gets.
Quarantine life.
Yeah. At least I got an excuse, right? All right, man. I won't see you in person Tuesday, but I'll be watching because no media, no crowd. I get it, but have fun.
COVID-19 days.
Yeah, good luck with all that. Hey, thanks for the time, dude. Hey. Tuesday. Yep, cool.
Oh, that's Ryan Villopoto. He is awesome to talk to now. It's just unfortunate, man. He was awesome actually to talk to behind the scenes. It was hilarious in his racing days, but he didn't want to have that go out. I talked about it a bunch on this show. I've talked about it on many shows. It was too hard to juggle all the pressure of trying to win and then try to master this crap talk, smart aleck, his language, well, smart ass, I might as well say it. His language on this pod was terrible, so why wouldn't I use at least smart ass? He could not corral all of that at once. And I know we all dream of the day that a rider can talk trash, has the personality to do both. Ryan Villopoto is the proof that you cannot do both. You now see that he has that personality in him. It was the pressures of racing. It was the demands of racing. It was the focus on racing that prevented him from being like that. The sport, the success, makes it hard to be that way. He was capable of it as a person, but he could not do both at the same time. Conor McGregor, awesome, good at that. Muhammad Ali, I guess, good at that. I don't know who else. It's just hard to be crazy trash talker and then deliver every time on job one, which is winning the races, because that's what really pays the bills. And I know people are going to say, well, technically, they're marketing guys for their teams. No, man, the money came from the wins. It's a results-driven sport. All sports are results-driven. The more success you have on the court, on the field, on the track, the more money you make. That's the way it always works. As Michael Jordan said, if he was averaging 2 points a game, he would not have sold any Nike shoes, no matter what else he did. He had to perform on the court. So for Villopoto, he had to focus on that. Now that he's done, that personality that he had behind the scenes that he didn't know how to utilize in front of the scenes, now he can let that fly. But I'm telling you, man, if we only had cameras, when Mathis would walk into that Kawasaki rig and tell Villopoto how fast Stewart was going in practice, oh, the hijinks after that, it was awesome. But you'll get a little bit of that feel with Moto Fite Klub, so watch it. Also, one other thing, at the very beginning of this podcast, he mentioned the Motocross of Nations pit bike race from Redbud. Yeah, just an aside from that. We now know, unfortunately, the Motocross of Nations at Redbud will be forever remembered for the absolute terrible performance of Team USA, not even getting on the podium that day and not even getting close to the podium that day. But that pit bike race took place on Saturday night before that when spirits were still up. And everyone thought, it's a great event, it's super fun, and Team USA is going to win. So the atmosphere was at a fever pitch on Saturday night during that pit bike race, and we were hosting this live show. If you were one of the what felt like 500,000 people that were at Redbud that weekend for donations, you remember this. We did live shows on Friday night for the crowd and Saturday night as well, and Jeff Stanton organized this awesome alumni dinner with all these past Team USA stars. We'd bring them up on stage, we'd interview them. It was super fun. Crowd was big, but it led to a zenith peak zone after this pit bike race where the crowd was revved up on a Saturday night. The pit bike race ended with Villopoto and Team USA winning, and then they came up on stage with their super buddy TTR 110s. They were doing burnouts. The crowd was going nuts. We had all these superstar Team USA people from the past up there. That was as close as I will ever be to seeing what it's like. I have a small glimpse to know what it's like to be like 80s rock star. Mathis and I, we looked off that stage, and we saw people cheering as far as the eye could see. It felt like there were 100,000 people cheering and going nuts from that stage. It wasn't 100,000, but it felt that way. Now, I don't know what it'd be like to be a rock star and have that crowd in the palm of your hand 7 days a week. Like, I don't know, Bon Jovi or Motley Crue or Kiss or Led Zeppelin or Legends of Rock have had. Bruce Springsteen still doing it. I don't know what it's like, but for a small glimpse, I felt it. It was unreal. It will be unmatched in my career. There were thoughts after Redbud that we would bring that live show back and maybe do it Saturday night at Lucas Oil Pro Motocross. It hasn't happened. I hope it doesn't happen because it will always be a letdown for what that atmosphere was like at Redbud that one special night. However, before I get too big for my britches, before I get too cocky, we had this crowd. They were laughing, they were listening, they were cheering to every word we said. I was feeling like I'm part of it, man. I'm not all of it, but I'm definitely part of it. Finally, I had not peed. I'd been on that stage, maybe having a beer or two, by the way, for like 4 hours hosting this show. And I'm like, we got the crowd in the palm of our hands. I'm taking a break. Villopoto, Mathis, you guys handle it. I'll be right back. I run over, I pee, I come back on stage. Crowd's gone. Gone. Like 3 minutes. The crowd has dispersed back to their campground. And I'm like, what happened? So I'm thinking there was like some riot and security had to like push people back. What happened to the crowd? What happened? Police must have come. They must have been busting them up with riot gear. So I say to like some security guard that I see, I'm like, dude, what happened? 3 minutes ago, there were 100,000 people here. And he's like, I don't know, redhead guy in a blue hat left, and they all left too. So that was it. They were there for Villopoto, and the minute Villopoto was done on our show and was done with the mini bike race, crowd had zero interest in anything I had to say, Mathis had to say, anybody else had to say. Villopoto dominated the conversation. It's the way it is. Bring it down to size. And I think Villopoto, like, I'm happy for the guy. You want to know that when you bust your ass like he did and you made yourself do the things that, as he said on this pod, you don't necessarily want to do, but you know if I just put my best foot forward and make the right decision every day for 10 years, it's going to pay off. It did. It would be terrible to know that you put in all that work and made all that sacrifice for nothing. He has the money in the bank, and he has the reputation and the respect, which some would argue is worth just as much as the money. He's got all that. That's what you want to hear. The hard work pays off. It did. So much respect. I've always respected Ryan Villopoto because he said yes to the things that he wanted to say no to, and he reaped the rewards. And he is a competitor of the highest honor. I think as time goes on, Villopoto's style in winning races and riding the motorcycle, it doesn't make him legend in this way where you're going to hear stories of this guy jumped something someday or this crazy deal where this guy was partying and he still won. He's not going to win in any of those bench racing arguments. So I fear sometimes that Villopoto's strength, just his general, when it's time, he's going to show up and get her done. I'm afraid that's going to get overshadowed in bench racing circles as the year goes on. So I feel like it's partly my duty, since I was at almost every race he was ever in as a pro. I was at nearly every one of those races in person, to always sing the praises of, yeah, but this guy was just a racer. He just got it done when it needed to get done. And I just love that, man. Because when you watch other sports, and I do, that's ultimately what you want out of your star athletes. When it's a big game and a big moment and it's on the line, they come through. Yes, the guy who can dunk spectacularly is cool too, but you really want as a fan is someone who gets it done when it matters. And that's the entire thing of Villopoto. That sums it all up. I don't know if he was the fastest guy, the fittest guy, the best guy, but he was the guy that gets it done when it matters, and that matters a lot. So I'm flying the flag for Villopoto, and I guarantee you if he ever were to listen to this, he'd be rubbing his hands together and just loving the fact that I'm singing his praises. I would not say that to his face, not giving him that, because he seems to respond better when we talk trash. Have I gone on enough here? I'm really digging this bench racing right now. Hey, our podcast is brought to you by Yoshimura. Go to yoshimura-rd.com. and get an exhaust system for your bike. Exhaust systems, riding, all sorts of parts and accessories, bike builds. It's through the roof right now. Sales on a lot of this stuff, not just from Yosh, but from our entire industry. So if you're going to put a bike build together or refresh your ride to go riding right now while we have time on our hands, it's apparently quite popular at the moment. Check out Yoshimura to do it. Or if you're riding a bicycle, also very popular right now if you're in a state that allows that. Check out the Chaleo pedal at yoshimuracycling.com. And you probably have time in your hands to read, so enhance your reading with Racer X. Get all of our stuff from the magazine. You can read it on the website. You can read it in print. It's different than what we have online, and you can get it at racerxonline.com/subscribe. And finally, make sure you watch Moto Fite Klub with Villopoto and Company, Tuesday, 5 Eastern. We got links for sign up right there on racerxonline.com. That's it. That's the Yoshimura Racer X Exhaust Podcast. I'm Jason Weigandt. Thanks for listening.